Hi all, my name is Michelle and I am the Whelping Foster Mentor with Coco's Heart, and I am just creating this video so that we can kind of talk a little bit about the whelping process, kind of what's expected, and then answer a lot of the common questions that people will have before they start whelping or even while they're choosing to whelp and what kind of things might come up. I've designed the video so that you can fast forward to questions that you're most interested in getting answers to, so you can kind of see the headings of them and then go from there. So that's that. If you have questions that aren't answered in this video, you can go ahead and put it in the comment section. And then, yeah, Turo and I are excited to kind of answer these questions for you. Getting to the first question, which is how long are dogs pregnant for? So they are pregnant for 58 to 68 days, with most common being 63 days. It's hard to say with rescue if the days are actually, how many days along they actually are once they get to rescue. And so the best way to be able to determine the date that you can expect puppies is by going to your veterinarian, going to one of the partner clinics and having them do either an x-ray or an ultrasound, kind of depending on where they're at in their gestation period. And then from there, being able to have them give you an estimation of when they're due, and then at some point, how many puppies you might be expecting, which we'll go over that a little bit later. But that's a typical time period. And yeah. So the next question is, what are the stages of labor? So a mom will be pregnant, and then about 24 hours before she goes into stage 1 of labor, her temperature will drop to just below 99 degrees, usually around 98.8, 98.9, but just under 99 degrees. Sometimes it's right about that 24-hour mark. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. It can go up to 48 hours really before stage 1 starts. And then it can also be below 24 hours as well. But once stage 1 happens, that's what we consider kind of pre-labor, where she'll start panting a lot, maybe pacing, seeming agitated, or seeming pretty lethargic. It can kind of be two ends of that spectrum. And then at that point, that usually will only last for 24 hours or less. So you can kind of anticipate if she's starting to pant and pace or doing that kind of thing, the stage 1 of labor symptoms, then you can kind of expect that she'll move into stage 2, which is active labor, within 24 hours. So then stage 2 will be active labor. So you'll see or feel typically some contractions. Now, if she's got a really full belly full of puppies and she's having those contractions, you might not see it because she's so full. But when she gets to the end of her labor process and, the last few puppies are coming out, that's when I can usually see full-on contractions. And so I have a couple of videos about what that looks like if you're interested. But that's kind of what that is. And then she should be contracting. It's usually just a few pushes and then it's, one's out. But sometimes it can take a little bit longer. But anyway, so that's what that is. So that answers that question. Talked about this one in my last answer to the last question, but I'll kind of go over it a little bit more. But this one is when do you know that a dog is actually in labor? And really how you know is from the signs of it. So that the temperature drops, that she's panting, that she's restless, all of those things. That's how you're gonna know. So when do you know when a mom is done having puppies? So the biggest indication is that you're going to see those labor symptoms stop. She'll probably stop panting. She'll be more relaxed. You won't see any more contractions. She'll be really interested in taking care of her puppies and doing all of the work that's necessary for her to care for them. She also will probably eat. That's another thing. We encourage you not to feed the mom before labor. Usually people will offer food, and then once she's kind of stopped eating food, that's a good indication that labor is going to happen as well. And so that's something to be mindful of as well. So if she starts eating now, that's not like the tried and true final thing. So don't, kind of anticipate that if you try to offer her food and she eats it, that she's done, because sometimes that's not the case. I've had that happen to me. I've had a foster that happen to them where they think that they're done, and but they think that they're done based on the estimated count of puppies from the x-ray, not because mom seems done. But even if she seems done and she eats and she has a surprise puppy, then she has a surprise puppy. But usually, especially if it's been 2 hours and there's no other puppy, you're not seeing contractions, you're not seeing any of the other signs, then you can pretty much say that it's safe for you to think that she's done. And I will tell you, if there's a puppy, which I've never had this happen, knock on wood, but if there's ever a puppy that is stuck in there and that she can't get it out, you will know. I've been told that by multiple veterinarians and multiple fosters, that if she has a puppy that's in there and, she needs to get it out and she can't, she'll let you know by her behavior. She'll be uneasy and things like that. But most often it's pretty easy. They just will have the puppies and then it's pretty clear that they're done. The other big reason, or the big way to find out that she's done, is by having a count completed, by having an x-ray about 45 days after, from gestation. So usually at the first appointment, you'll get an idea of how far along she is, and then the vet will have you come back between 45 and 50 days to have an x-ray completed. And then at that x-ray, they'll check, give you a little bit more information about when an anticipated arrival date might be, and then also look at how many puppies there will be. So that is really kind of a cool thing to be able to see those x-rays. So you can count and see the puppies too. So that one is that answer. I get this next question all the time. So what do you do when a puppy is being born or when a mom is in active labor? Nothing. The idea is that you do nothing. I had a vet lovingly tell me with my first mom that I whelped that it is best if I do nothing. Sometimes she's going to need it, especially if she's a first-time mom. She'll need you to kind of encourage her to do what she needs to do. So knowing what she needs to do is important, and trying to get her to do those things is great. But you really shouldn't need to do anything. She said the less you do, the better, which she's like, I'm telling you this with just complete care. Nothing that I don't think that you're capable of doing it, but just that it's best if she just does it. She's supposed to do it. And she's biologically trained to do it. So I think that can kind of give you some relief that there's not all this pressure on you to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do, when really it's up to her. She should be doing most of that things. Now, some dogs are comforted by having their fosters there for the delivery. Some are not. So knowing what your dog needs in that moment is going to be crucial. And then if she wants you there, is okay with you being there, I think being there is great if you can be. And then I usually, because I know what needs to happen, I make sure that she's doing that. And if I don't feel like she's doing a good job, then I will grab the puppy and I'll kind of bring it to her to help, encourage her, or I'll, tap her and, show her, okay, you got to come over here. And then usually when she's all done doing what she needs to do, I'll pick up the puppy and I'll listen to it. I'll listen for its breathing, and just to make sure that it is breathing well. And if it isn't, then I use an aspirator just to kind of get some of the gunk out, or help by stimulating breathing by, rubbing their belly. But really, that's the most I ever do. I don't really need to open up the sac. I don't need to cut the umbilical cord. It's actually better if you don't cut the umbilical cord. Mom should be doing it. She has actual, I think it's considered enzymes in her saliva that will actually be a healing property for the umbilical cord. So that's something to keep in mind too. There's a lot of articles out there with, this is what you need to do. This is the 25 different things that you need to have in your supply kit. This is how you remove or how you clamp a umbilical cord. I asked the vet about that because I wanted to know if that's something that I should be prepared to do. And she said, absolutely not. You should probably try to not do that. So, yeah, that's what you need to know about that. And that I get asked a lot is if I have any videos. I have tons and tons of videos. Photos, videos, you name it, I have it. I have videos of a birth. I have videos of contractions. I actually have a video of a stillbirth. I have a video of a mom doing exactly what she needs to do. I have a video of when I've needed to assist a little bit. And yeah, I have a video of nesting. I mean, I have a video of pretty much everything. So if you have something that you want to see a video of, just let me know. I will say that for me, I've done this 100 times. And when I watch videos, sometimes I feel like, oh my God, like I get a little queasy. But when I'm in the moment, I don't feel any of that at all. Which is interesting because I would have expected that it would have been worse, but it's actually not. I think that when you're in the moment of it, it's just such an incredible experience that you're focused on mom and you're focused on the puppies and the adrenaline kicks in. And so I don't ever feel anything more than just, oh my gosh, this is happening and this is exciting. What if you're not able to be home when the puppies are delivered? That's totally fine. At the end of the day, like I said earlier, she's biologically trained to do this. She knows how to do it. She should. And her body is prepared to do it. And so if you're not there, it's going to be fine. Now, is it nice to be there? Is it exciting to be there? Absolutely. Is that part of the fun? 100%. But it also isn't something that's necessary. And so if that's something that's kind of keeping you from feeling like you can be a whelping foster is because you work away from the home, don't let that scare you or shy you away. I try to be there for each of my births, and so I have a camera on and I'm diligent about making sure that I do that. And, I plan my work schedule accordingly, but I also, sometimes life just happens and you can't be there, and that's okay. So another thing that I get asked all the time, and just something I think that once people see my space, they feel like they can't whelp foster, is because I have a space that I designed because I whelp all the time. And so I have a lot of supplies, and I have it's a really nice setup, and I'm not gonna deny it. I love it. It's great. It works perfect for what I need it to be. But also I've had litters that are in a puppy pen and with a pool, and that's totally sufficient too. We also have 2 really nice PVC whelping boxes that were from a breeder that I think they just weren't breeding anymore, and so they sold them on Marketplace, and we were able to, or gave them to us or something, but somehow we got them. And they're 2 really nice big whelping boxes, and we've used them for 2 different litters already, and they've worked great. So that's something that we have available as well. But we also have plenty of X pens. We can get you pools, even just a roll of laminate flooring to cover up your kind of flooring if you don't have like a vinyl sheet flooring. That's what I meant, vinyl sheet flooring. A remnant of that, which you can get for like $20 at Menards, is really all you need. And then with a pool and a puppy playpen area to kind of keep them contained. That's really it, especially for the first 3 weeks. That's all they really need. And then once they get a little bit more mobile, then I usually take the pool out, and then they just have the play area. But aside from that, you need that. I would say lots of towels, which we have tons, by the way, tons of towels that you just don't care if they get dirty, so that you can use them both as bedding, but also during the actual birthing process. It's nice to have a clean towel around. And then I also will have towels in the pool so that mom can nest while she's in there right before labor. So I have those things. I also have an aspirator that helps me get some of the gunk out if I'm hearing like a mucousy breathing right after they're born. And then also I have a thermometer so that I can take a rectal temp at least once a day, usually twice a day when we're getting to the days before. And so those are really all the supplies that you need, though. You don't need to have, the perfect setup. It just needs to work. So how long are puppies nursing for? So typically puppies will nurse up until 6 weeks, but 6 weeks is really like the complete cutoff point. And so at 3 weeks, when they're able to start kind of eating more solid foods, that's when we start the weaning process. Some puppies are completely weaned off by 5 weeks usually. But at 6 weeks, that's when I put the shirt on and I make sure that they don't have access to her milk anymore, because it's going to take 3 weeks for her to dry up before she can get adopted. And so, and before she gets spayed, really is what it is, and then get adopted. And so at 6 weeks, which is 3 weeks before her spay, I put a shirt on and I make sure that the puppies don't have access so that she can dry up. But at week 3, that's when I start doing gruel, which is just puppy kibble that you kind of grind up into somewhat of a powder, and I put milk replacer in there. You can just do water. I put milk replacer in there just to kind of entice them, especially for the first few times that I'm giving it to them, so they can be interested in it, because I want them to start weaning. And if I don't encourage them to do it, then they just won't. They'll just wait until they can get milk from mom. So I do that for that as well. But that's kind of the general timeline for nursing. What do you need to do in order to be a whelping foster? What kind of is expected of you? It's pretty simple. You really just need to make sure that you're taking care of her from pregnancy all the way through adoption. Adoption is at 9 weeks. And I'll go over in the next question is about timeline, so I'll kind of go over that then. But we kind of have the expectation that you're having them through adoption, and typically the puppies will have adopters by the time they're ready for adoption at 9 weeks. Mom sometimes won't have an adopter, but almost always the puppies will. And I have really, I think, with almost every single litter, have had adopters for both mom and puppies the whole way through. So, yeah, so that's kind of that. Is the general timeline. So the general timeline is that she'll have her puppies, and then at 3 weeks, then they'll start gruel. They'll kind of start weaning process. At 4 weeks, they kind of start getting introduced to toys. At 5 weeks, I start doing potty training outside. At 6 weeks, they go to their first appointment, and then from there, then I'm doing home visits, and I'm doing the in-person meets and all of that, which, by the way, if you need any help with that, that's something that we can have. With litters, we like to be able to support you as much as need be. I do all of my home visits and all of my in-person meets on my own, just because I like doing it. I've had them since birth, and it's important to me. I want to be able to meet them. But if you're somebody that just has a lot going on, and that's not something that is of value to you, I can get fosters to help with those home visits for you. So if that's something that you're like, oh, but what do I do when I have 7 home visits to do? That seems crazy. We can help you with that. So don't let that stress you. But anyway, so you do that process, and then at 9 weeks, then they get spayed and neutered, and then 3 days after that, then they would get adopted. And typically, like I said in the last question, I have adopters that are already lined up by that 9 weeks, almost always. So that's really great too. And then after that, if there's any remaining puppies, then you just kind of care for them until they do get adopted, working to get them placed after that. So that is kind of the general timeline. If you have more questions specifically about each stage by week, you can let me know and I can get you that information. Anything else that you should consider before deciding to sign up to Whelp? Yes, kind of. I would just be mindful of your space. Be mindful of your schedule. If you, my space is in the basement and I don't have access to a door. So when the puppies are ready to be potty trained, I have to get them all up the stairs. It's not ideal, but it works for me. And so if that's something that, just be mindful of that. Know that, with weeks 0 through 5, that might not be a big deal, but from 5 to 9, if that's going to be too stressful for you, then just know that. But I've made it work, and at some point I get the puppies learning how to go up the stairs by themselves, and then it's fine. And so just kind of being aware of that. And then, but if you have access to a door, I have a foster who didn't know that their dog was pregnant when she got her at intake and ended up whelping because she, loved her and wanted to keep her as a foster. I have that happen all the time. And then they kind of fall in love with the process. But so she has a laundry room, and off the laundry room is her backyard, is a door for her backyard. which was a great space for her. It was a tiled area, so it was puppy proof. It was a relatively large area, so she could have it set up there. The laundry was right there. She had a utility sink, so she could, you know, get water and things like that. So it ended up being kind of the perfect spot for it. If you have a space like that, honestly, I think it would be relatively easy for you to make it work. You just want to make sure that you're comfortable with making that work. But aside from that, those are really the things that I would consider with that. And then the only other thing that I would consider is your schedule. Because it's a 9-week commitment from birth, just making sure that you're, you know, you don't have a trip planned. And if you do, then making sure that you're telling your foster mentor ahead of time, or, you know, telling me ahead of time, you know, or both of us or whoever, that you need that time covered, and then we can see if that's something that we can work with. We've been able to do it a couple of times, but really only if it's absolutely necessary. And so, but the goal is to make sure that you're prepared from, you know, day 0 all the way through 9 weeks and then past to adoption. So, yeah, so that's kind of the general things that you should consider. If you have questions about what it might look like for you to whelp and other things that you might consider, or if you want me to help walk through your space with you on Zoom or FaceTime or something like that, I am happy to do that. I'm more than willing to walk the space with you. I'm happy to work with you to figure out what supplies you need and work with your foster mentor to get that set up with the supplies coordinator, and get you taken care of. So that is that. The questions that I have prepared. If you have additional questions, you can go ahead and comment below. Otherwise, you can also always email me, and I would be happy to answer those questions for you. I really kind of overall just a really, it's a really great process, and I love it. And I just want to be able to share that with other people. And I think that, you know, it's more manageable than people give it credit for. And it, you know, maybe isn't certainly for everybody, but I do think that there are more people that are able to do it, and they just don't know that they can. And so if there's something that I can do to help answer those questions for you and help you realistically talk through whether it's something that, you know, you think that you could do or not, I would be more than happy and willing to kind of talk through that with you. So again, if you have questions, just reach out to me via email or by commenting below. Answered all of the questions that I had provided. I also want to go over some major takeaways from the video. So the first is your space does not need to be perfect in order for it to be functional. It just needs to be functional. You know, if you do it all the time and you have the finances available to have a really great space, or you're in a place where you have the extra room available to you, then by all means, do make a whelping room similar to mine. But you do not have to have a whelping room similar to mine in order for you to whelp. I haven't always had my whelping room, and my whelping room hasn't even always been the way that it has been. I've learned and figured out and adjusted and changed what I was doing in order for it to work for me, but that's just it. It's what works for me, not what needs to happen. So just kind of keep that in mind for sure. I think that sometimes people see my space and get, you know, kind of, oh my gosh, you know, a little bit of imposter syndrome or something. But honestly, that it does not need to be what I have. You really can do it. And then the second thing, that you are far more capable of doing things than you give yourself credit for. It really in all things probably, but especially with this. I think that, you know, there are lots of fosters that never intended to whelp, got a dog that they, you know, didn't know was pregnant, fell in love with the dog, and by the time it was time for her intake appointment or time for her spay, they find out that she's pregnant, and then they already are in love. They want to keep her, and maybe not forever, but they want to keep her to foster her. And so, and I will tell you, pregnant moms can do that to a person. They are, by and large, the most sweetest, caring, loving, snuggly dogs ever. And, you know, I don't think that that's true of every single probably, but it has been for me. And so I can see why somebody would fall in love with their mom and then want to whelp. The third and final thing that I want you to take away from this is that you have so many people, including me, to be able to support you through this process. That's why my position was created, or my volunteer position was created, was because they want somebody to be on the team that can support you through this specifically, because it's so unique. It's not like every other fostering experience. It definitely has its own nuances, and we want to make sure that there's somebody that can help through that. But I didn't get here without the support of other people as well. There are lots of whelping fosters in rescue here, and the veterinary clinics that we partner with, and other people just on the team that have done it before, that has been instrumental in my whelping journey and being able to get to the place that I am now, where I'm able to help you all. So just know that there's a big team out there of supporters that, you know, want to cheer you on and want to help, and we always need whelping fosters. And so if that's something that you can commit to, we would really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And again, if you have more questions, go ahead and comment below.